Welcome to Community Cuts, live from Brooklyn, New York at Salon Leahing, 732 Washington Avenue between Prospect Place and Park Place. We got a good show for you tonight. Donnatella is back. And Rickie James. They'll give you score by score, and they'll talk to you and let you know what's happening here in Brooklyn. Live again from Brooklyn, New York, featuring Donnatella and Rickie James.
Movie that we're doing, that we're starring in, right? Okay, so we are live now. First of all, let me start by saying how I have missed being here in Salon Leahing in Brooklyn with my host mates, Duke Saunders, who doesn't like to come before the camera, and my brother from another mother, Rickie James.
You got that from Duke. There you go. There you go.
Did I now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm super excited to be here. But today, our first opening story, Rickie, I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, and that is sit here and listen. And today, you're going to open our live, and kind of catch us up on the 13 individuals who have died in custody with the NYC Department of Corrections. 13 this year. What can you tell us, Rickie?
Well, I'm going to read from the Daily News. They had the article, and it's passed over almost with the public, where they don't discuss it in their community news. Right. A man held in the city jail on burglary charges died under as yet disclosed circumstance early Friday. The 13th jail-related death in 2024 is the officials say. Edwin Ramos, 50 years old, was found in medical distress in a bathroom at the Otis Bantam Correction Center on Rikers Island at 12:04 in the morning. Taken to the jail's medical clinic, 20 minutes later, the correction department said in a statement, medics then took him to a nearby hospital where he died.
So I don't know much about prison life, but I didn't know that you could be in jail and just get up and go to, get up and go to the bathroom at midnight. I thought in all the movies, people who are incarcerated are locked in their cells at night.
Yes.
So my first question would be, my first statement would be, my condolences go out to the family and
Mr.
friends.
Ramos's family.
Yeah, 50 years young. No matter what he was incarcerated for, he was somebody's son.
Yeah.
Maybe someone's brother, maybe someone's father, grandfather at the age of 50, and to be incarcerated, serving your time for whatever crime. And then there are some people who are in Rikers Island who actually haven't been convicted, but maybe they did make bail, so they're incarcerated until
they have a lot of different cells, type of cells. They have the pod, they had the roll, they had the basements, prison. There's a different issue about each prison location in each building, so it is a thing. You might just get lost in all the issue of the ramifications of law and order.
Have you ever visited anyone in Rikers Island?
Yes, I have. I have been to the detention center downtown. Mm-hmm. I've been to the location in Manhattan that is in Chinatown.
So I want to go back to the location where 13 people, we're in our 11th month. So that's like 1.25 person has lost their life each month. And that's not even including, I wonder what the number is if you go back and they add in those individuals who lost their lives during the pandemic while incarcerated.
Right.
But I have actually, not in a long time, but I have actually been to visit someone. I knew a young man who was incarcerated a long time ago, and his mother wanted to visit him, and she was afraid to go by herself. She was I think at the time she might have been in her 50s or 60s, and he had explained to me how grueling it is of a process to visit. And
you got to remember, there's only one way into Rikers and one way out of Rikers.
Yeah, but even with that, right? It's actually what you have to go through. So he wanted me to visit him first before coming with his mother, which I'm glad I did that, because I had no idea. I hear about Rikers Island. I didn't realize that it was a literal island, and the only way to get there, I'm thinking I could drive right to the prison, park, and then go inside.
Off and walk inside.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, and I think this time I didn't drive because he wanted me to travel the way his mother would. So I took a bus, and the bus took you to like a main street kind of close by the airport, if I remember.
Right.
And then you walked up a hill. And when I walked up the hill, I saw where people could park their car. But then you had to wait for a special bus to take you across the bridge, right? But then, you get a little schooling regarding the inability to bring contraband, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, contraband, I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm not going to carry a gun. I'm not carrying drugs or anything like that. But then it was just little things. I had actually ridden the bus over, and then I realized I couldn't take my cell phone in. Because silly me, I'm thinking, I'm not a criminal. I'm going to take my cell phone in. Cell phone, considered contraband. And when you get over there, they then told you, this is many years ago, policy could be different now, but they said, oh, well, you can go outside and hide your phone somewhere. Hello, excuse me, what? Or you have to ride all the way back over, right? Then as a female, and I should be careful, as someone who was born a female, and if you happen to identify as a female and you have on a bra and you wear underwear, you are in for a whole nother thing, right? Yeah. Because the search to go into Rikers was so invasive and aggressive, and I get it, right? Because contraband, some people are trying to bring in drugs, razor blades, things to trade for value inside the prison system. They were aggressively searching you. And I don't know if you've seen the other story about the correctional officers here in New York who've been arrested for illegally nude searching people going into the prison system. Yeah, it's quite a few of them actually recently. This maybe like a week or two ago. But then even once you get in, the amount of tension in being around other people, and they're all different walks of life of people in the prison waiting to see their loved ones. It was especially painful to see people who were bringing in babies and watching people search like the baby's Pampers. And I was like, wow. Come on, is somebody going to put something in a baby's pamper? And evidently,
there are those that would.
Yeah, evidently the answer is yes. And then even once you're inside, then you're waiting for the person to come down. And I had no emotional connection to the person, but it was still like traumatizing. And then when you see the people, it's kind of like, I know when you do a crime, you should serve the time, you should be in a cage, but it was just so animalistic to me, right? So degrading. Some of the people look really, 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 really bad, right?
Is that a federal prison? I'm thinking over whether
it's just
a city prison.
It's a city prison.
The federal prison is located where?
In New Jersey.
Jersey. All right.
Yeah, I've been to that one too. I talk to people from all sides of the world, right? You got to have friends everywhere. But and there are a lot of innocent people in jail, so let's not skip that part. But I happened to be in Rikers in one of those buildings at the time when someone was caught with contraband, and by that I mean this siren went off. I was terrified. I thought it was in a scene from like The Wire, and the cops came running in, and they had on helmets, and they looked like the Ninja Turtles. You know, they had these head things on and a shield and a batting baton, and they all came running like toward me. But the person I was visiting was actually in solitaire, so we were like in this, you know, in this little cage. And they went running towards someone and tackled them. Wow. And apparently on a camera somewhere, they saw the person that was visiting them slide them something. And that's what it was.
Well, you got to be careful of your emotion. I mean, you can't make gestures that are lewd and incorrect.
Yeah, you can't touch.
You can't be touching and feeling, and you can't be about yourself so much that people suspect that you're sliding something here and touching something there.
Yeah, and they were sliding under the table.
It's very inconspicuous what they think of, and it's not. It worked for a while that Rikers, but I don't think it'll work any longer.
Well, but if I'm not mistaken, and our mysterious founder, you can chime in because you got a mic back there, right? Yep. How long have they been talking about closing Rikers? Hasn't it been a long time?
Yeah,
it's been a while.
It's
been a while.
You're talking about more than 5-10 years, right?
Yeah.
So how do they keep? I remember, if I'm not mistaken, some years ago, some top person at Rikers had to step down because allegedly he had siphoned money from the correctional officers' pool or something like that.
That's correct.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad over there, I think.
I took the test for correction officer when I was 18, 19. I passed with flying colors. But the idea of it didn't cross my mind of how it was going to be a violent position of work. Mm-hmm. So I said, yeah, I passed good. And I went on to college and I kept studying.
Once they said you could be knuckling up, knuck as you buck, as they say. Rickie said, oh, not this face. No, thank you. No, thank you.
No, so I didn't take it.
You know, as another aside, and not making light of the person who lost his life or the other 12 people, and hopefully there'll be some investigations. The other things that I've always found very curious about stories that come out of correctional facilities are when you start to hear, like, especially like women prisons, women popping up pregnant, or you know, the women officers who have been caught with relationships with inmates and things like that. Although I will say there are some really good looking men who are incarcerated. And for those of us women outside who, you know, suffer from men cheating, I imagine a man who's locked in a cage who can't cheat might be appealing to some people. At least you know he ain't going nowhere. Right. I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
Okay. You got a point there. I've seen down in the bayous or places like that where
the bayous. We talking about right over in Rikers.
The women are lonely, and they see that the opportunity to connect with someone in prison is valid. So they do.
They don't have to be lonely. The women who are working in correctional offices in prisons, a lot of them are educated. First of all, they got really good jobs, very good pension. They're making excellent money on overtime. And you know, these guys, they're doing sit-ups and push-ups every day. And you know, they're not seeing another woman. And some of them in there getting their hair done, they're getting braids, and you know, there's a barbershop. I don't know that the women are lonely. And I think in my head, I would think it's more like even people who have corporate jobs. It is the familiarity of seeing the same person every day, especially if it's not a violent crime offender, right? And the fact that a lot of people who are incarcerated swear that they're innocent, right? So you're seeing that person, let's say a person's locked up for 3 or 4 years. You're seeing that person every day, all day. And I imagine I've had friends who were incarcerated and they'll call you and be like, oh, my cellmate's a nice guy. Just talk to him for a little while. If you talk to him, I can get more time on the phone with my girl. Or, silly stuff. And in DC, I remember some years ago finding out that there was an executive kind of love search they were matching professional women of color, including executives, with nonviolent criminal offenders who were locked up and who were coming out soon, because the idea was you get a chance to connect with this person. He wasn't a violent criminal. I don't know what kind of things they did. Maybe it was fraud or whatever. And then these women were literally connecting and having relationships, because the idea is you go to jail and you reform and you come out this beautiful, nice person who hasn't had 10 baby mamas and 15 kids, right? And the same goes for women. There are a lot of very attractive women. I think during the pandemic, we saw a lot of people in prison who were attractive and their pictures go viral.
Pandemic, yeah.
But anyway, I digress. So what's next on the topic for us? Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about Pop Smoke, right? So everyone knows Pop Smoke is from Brooklyn, from Canarsie, right? And recently, a couple months ago, I attended a Pop Smoke Gala, this nonprofit. That's right? Right, a nonprofit. And it is Pop Smoke Shoot for the Stars. And there's a huge event coming up in December in Harlem. And you guys can check out their Instagram. I went to a meet and greet with Canarsie Merchants Services last night. It was at Starbucks on Foster and East 80th. And first of all, when I go into most Starbucks, which I don't go into often.
Yeah, I think I saw that on Instagram, right?
Yeah, so Score was
Score was there.
Yeah, so Score was there, and there was an amazing, energetic, powerful speaker. Her name is Sarah. She was the host for the Score event, and I've attended a lot of Score events online. I don't recall ever going to one in person, but what was curious to me, and no shade, Score, but in the email advertisement that I received, the people in the picture, the majority of them didn't look like me. So it was professional, non-Black and brown people in this clip, this picture. And it said Canarsie Merchant Services, I think it's the last name, but it was also being promoted by Brooklyn Chamber. And I love Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce.
They're good people.
Right? Yeah, Randy Pierce and Stevenson, Camille Hastings, all of those people.
Camille Hastings.
Yeah. And so I thought, this is at Starbucks on Foster, but I see all these non-Black people. Let me go see what that's about. And I have to tell you, I said, let me make sure I dress the part, right? Because it's a business opportunity, hear what they're talking about. But when I got there, I was pleasantly surprised. It was a mixed group. It was a lot of people who look like me, men and women. And the Starbucks at, I think it's 8002 Foster Avenue, was huge, beautiful, clean. They already have up their Christmas decor, and everyone who worked there looked just like me. And what was even better, there were young Black women and men with their laptops working. Because if you go to Starbucks downtown or in the city, lots of times the people who are in it don't look like us. So that was awesome. And Score gave out complimentary $13 gift cards. So I was super excited, right? And there were people there representing different lenders. And the topic was, this was a quarterly meeting. So if you're a small business owner, a brand, someone who wants to build a business, go to score.org, look for Sarah, beautiful Black woman with blonde hair. And she can talk to you about how to take your small business to the next step. And I think there were about 13 people who were there, and I probably connected with 8. As a matter of fact, I was talking small business brands and ideas until 4:52 a.m. in the morning
Wow.
this morning. Yeah,
Plenty
so
tired.
one person after the other, and it was super engaging. I even met a gentleman who has a cleaning service. I'm gonna tell Winsome about him. He does power washing for windows and small businesses. His name is Raheem, nice Muslim brother. And also something that we need a lot of in Brooklyn, he does power washing of sidewalks.
Oh, that's
Right,
good.
sidewalks, garbage cans.
They have the violations of sidewalk when your sidewalk is not smooth. You can receive a violation and be sued.
Yeah,
So
but take Salon Leahing.
Yeah,
Absolutely flawless. Great place to come in and get a service. When I walk outside, I don't see any trash in front.
No.
The windows are always sparkling. I don't know who is doing the windows here, but there's never any smudges. And the sidewalk is clean, but a power wash on your sidewalk is kind of something different. So I want to see if I can speak to Raheem and see if we can get some type of special service for Winsome, and in him delivering that service, also promote her small business, like a cross promotion, right, on his website.
Yep.
That's great. Love it.
Yeah. Okay, so what else do we want to talk about?
President Trump had an interview with, or the other way around, Mamdani had an interview with President Trump.
Really?
That was in the news for today and yesterday. I find it new, and no one seemed to object to it. They didn't object to, or seem to put a derogatory twist on what it is that they were doing, speaking to each other. Maybe because he was in the Albany Senate, I think it's Senate, or was he in the Assembly?
Who, Trump?
Mamdani.
Assembly.
Assembly.
And so, well, I don't think anyone should say anything negative, because my 10 toes down current mayor, right, Eric Adams, he's still here for now. You know, he said it's one thing when you're campaigning and you talk about different promises, but once you become the mayor, you have to put your personal feelings aside. And as the mayor of, New York City, he has to engage the president. No matter what I thought this time last year for my expectation of a mayor, like I said before, when it came time to vote at this point of the people who were running, the best choice for me was Zohran, right? I wasn't one of those almost 7,000 people who went in and voted for Eric, because I felt like voting for Eric in a situation where he couldn't win is a lost vote, right?
That's correct.
I wanted to be intentional about who I voted for. And as we transition into the new year, I think even those people who, you may be diehard supporters of the initiatives that Eric Adams started, you now need to transition and support our current mayor, because there's no other way to get things done, number one.
Right.
And number two,
there'll be no pouting. No pouting.
Right. Well, you can pout, but you still need to respect the person who's leading the city, which I feel like a vast majority of people stop showing respect to our current mayor based on personal feelings. But the other part that's really interesting to me as a woman of color, our new mayor-elect hasn't gotten into office, right? But yet you hear people saying that they're putting together these groups to quote unquote monitor him, right? You have all these people threatening to quit jobs. And I say, please do, because I'm unemployed and I need a job. So you're clearing the space for me. People who say they're going to move out of New York City. And at the end of the day, there's no city like New York City. There's no money like the money here in Wall Street. There's no money like the money here with our Black and brown community and the spending of our dollars, since we don't keep them in our community very, very long. So a lot of people saying they're going to move. they're not really going to move, right? People usually leave New York City when they can't afford to be here anymore, or you've made so much money that you're ready to go somewhere and relax peacefully, right? So I'm really excited. I'm hoping to stay on the guest list for Gracie Mansion.
Right.
I want to be in attendance to see a different culture, kind of leading. And I think the text about him being Muslim, and I attended an event where there was some voting and things, and I listened to a black man that I know give his testimony. Right, this was at the Oversight Committee testimony for MWBE and the importance of ensuring that more women, Black-owned women business enterprise, not just the white women, and Black men have more competition for contracts, right? And that was something that was there was a head chair, but I was invited by council member, oh my goodness, Farah Lewis. And, I think it's important to see how our mayor-elect will keep ensuring that Black and brown people have an opportunity to make money from the city and the state that are minority certified. But listening to this young man talk, I realized, his concern is that because Eric Adams is the first mayor that kind of paved the way for more than 5% of that $240 billion, I think this earmark that comes in the city, to actually make it into the hands of Black and brown business owners. And I think that ended up being something like 34.5%, which is something like $27 billion. And if you're a small business owner and you're not minority certified, you don't get to compete for that money. So I am currently doing
the competition in New York is fierce.
It is.
Especially with the minority businesses, it's fierce. Outside of the city, like Erie County and FARAH, all those counties up there, upstate, it's not as bad, not as fierce, because there's not that many minority businesses.
Do you know what I learned at the oversight hearing? And I first have to say, the current deputy diversity chief, deputy, whatever his title is, Michael Garvin, right? Did a great job. I love him. I've met him on several occasions. It's only recently when I saw him receive an award from True Fund, their True Impact Awards, and the $27 billion that has happened, that I equated him with his title and his functionality. But you know what I learned, and I'm going to pose a question. Think about how big New York City is. How many businesses do you think have minority certification between minority women and minority men? Just a ballpark number.
I feel that because of the fact that it costs money, and because of the fact that we are a minority Black business, I think the number would be very low.
Well, I asked you what, and here's the thing. I have a small business. I offer services. I charge for assistance with minority certification applications. It does not always cost money. There are what they call CDFIs. There are businesses.
Now, who wants to go to them? And a small business, I wouldn't want to go.
Do you know who a CDFI is? Do you know that?
No, I don't.
Well, then how do you know you don't want to go to them?
I'm just saying that
I just know you love me. That's what it really is. No, so let me tell you something. CDFI is simply businesses that have been vetted and approved by the city and state to do business and work with certain funding. Right?
It's approved by the city of New York.
Which means you don't have to worry about taking your paperwork there and then tomorrow somebody have their utility bill in your company's name. Right? These are people.
The chances are that actually happened. Somebody
they are not. Can you let me finish?
Go ahead.
Thank
tell
you.
her.
I love you, but thank you. Please. So the CDFIs are wonderful places that you can go that will actually help you with your minority certification for free, right? It is the same as saying I could go to a farm, kill a cow, cut my own beef, and make a hamburger dirt cheap, right?
Mhm.
Or you can go to McDonald's, right, and get a 69-cent burger. Or you can go to your steakhouse and get a $50 burger, right? Or you can go to the grocery store, right, and buy your beef. There are many choices.
Yeah,
so if you know you don't want to pay for a service, you Google free New York City assistance with all kinds of services. Like if you know you need an education and you don't have an undergrad degree, you can go to any SUNY or CUNY school and get a 2-year degree for free if you're under 55 years of age. And if you're over a senior age and you do not have a degree, there's another program that you can enroll in. I met the most beautiful woman who was a mix between Anita Baker and Diane Carroll, who is 74, I think she said, and she is getting her degree at Medgar Evers. When I tell you beautiful, she currently works in Farah Lewis's office. She was an intern from Medgar Evers when she went to Farah's office to help at 70 plus years old. And now she is working there full time. And I spoke to her at Brooklyn Commons. Don't know if are you familiar with Brooklyn Commons?
Yes, I know.
So Brooklyn Commons, which is managed by Joanne. Can't think of Joanne's last name. I can see it, but I don't know how to pronounce it out loud. They had a small business pop-up. It is an annual event. I would say Brooklyn Commons has 100 different suites of varying sizes that you can rent for your brick and mortar. So if you're a person who has a home-based business like myself, you don't want strangers coming to your home, you don't want to use a virtual address, you rent a suite at Brooklyn Commons and do your thing. And do me a favor, make sure you pay your monthly dues on time because they don't like that part, right? Mm-hmm. But this pop-up had all types of businesses there. BOC Capital, BOC Capital. They are a financial institution designed to work with people who have less than perfect capital credit scores. Yeah. They also are deal with contract lending, right? So one of the biggest problems that people have once they get minority certification and they receive a contract with the city or state, there's a huge complaint at the amount of time and bureaucracy of how long it takes for them to get paid. And a lot of small businesses don't have the funding to float, payments until the city or state pays them, where there are city and state approved firms that will give you a loan or give you payments in advance based on a contract that you have with the city or state because they know the funds are coming. Now they're making money off of your contract, absolutely, but those are the options. Yep. So to answer the question that what I said is, when you think of the millions of people in New York City, hundreds of thousands of businesses that you see, how many businesses, if you had to say a number, how many businesses do you think are minority certified? And minority, MWBE, means minority women of any race, Black, Asian, white, or minority men, which are Black and brown men, right? How many, if you said a number, just say a number.
50.
Oh my gosh, you have little faith. Off camera. What number do you think?
Okay, and that's also the Caucasian people as well.
Minority. No, Caucasian people. No, so it is. Well, let me say it again. Minority women business enterprise, men business enterprise really is anybody other than a white man.
Okay.
So it's Black women, white women, Asian women, Indian women. As a matter of fact, at the Oversight Committee, there is a new demographic. Well, they're not new. People are here all the time. Mm. I think the reference was Amina, like that. So it's the Middle Eastern individuals who are not white, but because of outdated information, they when you fill out a census, they qualify under white, but they have the same challenges that we do. They are now trying to become approved as a minority disadvantaged entity so they can compete for these dollars and cents. So with that said, what number do you think? Think about how many businesses there are in New York City. What number do you think are actually minority certified?
New York City, New York State.
New York City. You want to change your 50?
No.
Okay.
Let's do 75%.
I didn't say 75%. I said a number. From 1 to infinity, a number.
70? 75?
Oh my goodness. Anybody else in here? So we're in a salon and it's good. 50, 75. So we're talking about, think about how many
number, Donnatella?
I'm gonna tell you. Think about how many businesses there are in, and let me say something else. I became a member of Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. They have multiple levels of members. I'm the lower level member, but one of the things they talked about, their database has 27,000 small businesses in it.
Oh, it's
right?
Okay.
So
we're doing
we're talking. I didn't say percentage.
Okay.
I'm going to speak directly into the mic, right? I asked of all the businesses in the 5 boroughs, how many businesses?
15,000.
You said 15,000.
All right.
Okay. How many do you say?
I think it has to be more than that. Let's say 30,000.
Okay. So, out of I think there's 200 and something thousand businesses in New York City, right? Or maybe we should do a Google search. I'm going to do a Google search to see how many businesses. But what was very surprising to me, there are only 11,000 plus businesses that have gone through the minority certification process.
Is there a benefit that other than what you?
That's a great question.
What you say, but I still see the certification is a real thing that you should put more weight as a precious to have in your business.
So let me answer that question, right? And because this is what people say to me now that I've added it to my vernacular. What is the benefit? Okay, so you can wake up every morning as a Black and brown person or as a white woman, and your mama and daddy be proud of you.
Right.
New York City, New York State could care less. They don't recognize you as anything other than a business that's registered with the state, right? But if you want to wake up as a minority male or a minority woman or a white woman and be able to compete for grants, loans, and contracts that are earmarked just for businesses that are minority certified, you have to go through the process. Mm-hmm. And there are multiple certifications. Most people know about MWBE, which is Minority Women Business Enterprise. A lot of men of color do not know about MBE. So remember, the difference is if there's a 51% woman owner of the business, MWBE. If the 51% owner is a man, MBE. But there's also Minority Women Business Enterprise certification at the state level, at the city level. There's also minority certification with New York, New Jersey Port Authority. There's minority certification with MTA, Metropolitan Transportation.
Well, do you consider
what does the A stand for in MTA? Authority, right?
Do you consider city businesses like an agency or
there are 95 state agencies or city agencies
more valuable certified than a small business other than?
No, so it's not about more value, it's about different pockets of money, right? So the city has a budget, the state has a budget, and then there's federal funding, which is a whole different budget. Even the SBA has a minority certification, and this administration is doing everything they can to roll all that back. That DEI, there's an 8A certification. There is an AC. I think it's ACBDE certification, which is airport concession disadvantage certification.
Wow.
Right? There's
That
at
sounds
least
nice.
there's at least 9, right?
That sounds
But
nice. Nice
that's
and tricky.
yeah, but that just simply means that you are a business. Let me pick. We have a great barber here, right? Let's say that our barber, our in-house barber, he's kind of quiet. I don't know if he wants me to say his name on the air, right? But there's a barber here. He applies for minority certification. He already is getting business from customers. So I like to tell people, however much that doesn't sound like a proper sentence, but whatever the amount of money it is you're making from your current customers, whether it's social media, word of mouth, advertisement driven, you are leaving money on the table because you're not set up to compete for this minority money. And what are the advantages? So here's me, small business owner. I registered with the state. Yay. Here's me. I registered with the state and I have minority certification. We're both up for, we're both trying to get the same contract. Preference typically goes to the minority certified business because
nice.
there are boxes that you need to
and
check.
if you get it for free, is there a
difference? No.
Downside?
It's because it's the same certification. It's just like a person can come here and spend $50 to $1,000 to get their hair done, or they can go to their nana's house who's going to cut their hair for free. Now, sometimes your edges might be pushed back further if you go to an unprofessional stylist or barber, right? But if you go to someone who's licensed and they know the things that they need to do, chances are you're going to get better service. But remember, some of that grant money, right, or some of the contract money that comes in to pay these companies pays them a living wage so they can give a service. For example, one that I would like someone to investigate.
Before you go into that,
Yeah.
why people are not jumping on that bandwagon too?
Okay. So there are a bunch of reasons, and I'm going to use even myself, right? Lots of times it's easy to say, you do this, you do this. I'm a person that was raised in a household where you go to school, you go to college, you go to the military, you get a trade, you go to work. You get a job and you do your best so you can work your way up the corporate ladder. That is how I was raised. Unless, of course, you went into the military, you still do your best so you can work up the military corporate ladder, right? For a lot of times, entrepreneurship in my household, other my mom doesn't really respect consulting much because there are patches when I work, there are patches when I don't work. So if I'm coming to my mama and asking my mother for money, she has no respect for that. You go get a government job. My mother was a government employee. She retired after 32 years. Her pension is higher than most people's regular salary because the protection of the government, which this administration is slashing and trying to take away, if you invested your life in the government, your pension is 50% of what your salary was for the rest of your life, right? And so these people who are now being fired, who worked really hard to get a government job, they have to now rethink their entire life because when they applied for that job, they applied for that job and won that job with the understanding, I am going to rock out in this position until I am old and gray.
Yep.
And when I retire, this job will pay back into me. And that is how I will take care of my life. So it's very different now when you look at people who are being laid off or agencies that are being ripped apart and nothing is being done for them. Because these people, you could have started working for the government straight out of high school or college, right? You may or may not have a degree. A lot of those positions you had to have a degree, right? And you worked in this job for 10, 15, 20 years. And now you're hearing about people getting settlements. And in my head, I was like, they're getting settlements. Are they still getting their pensions? Every time I hear they're doing something with government and they're taking money, I just keep thinking, oh man, I hope this doesn't mess with people's pensions, people who are already getting pensions, right? And then you think about, where are they taking this money? Where's this money going to? Is this money the 200 million that's going to build this dance floor that none of us are ever going to walk on? You know, and then if this guy takes 200 million, $1 billion, the next president is going to have to rip the money again, because is the next president going to come back and rebuild the East Wing? Since presidents have that ability,
Yeah.
right? Is that next president going to have to come back and say, oh my goodness, I've now got to spend $1 trillion to put back all the black books into the school system, re-put slavery and history back into history, go back to the African American library, put all that stuff back. Like, you know, that's the stuff that's just mind-boggling.
Like it never should have been taken. That's
right.
That's
but to answer your question, why don't more people become minority certified? This is what Council Member FARAH Lewis was talking about in this oversight committee, right? The chair, the other council members, they asked the question, how many businesses that applied for minority certification this year were denied? The number was 39.
Wow.
39, very low.
All those businesses. Wow.
And so that 11,000 businesses that are minority certified, that's since the beginning of time, right? And whether or not you also have to renew your certification. So the next question they asked was, well, how many people applied for minority certification this year if 39 were denied? And unfortunately, the day that the Oversight Committee met, there was also Minority Business Enterprise Day in Albany. So all of SBS, which is Small Business Services, the mayor's chief diversity officer and his staff, all of these people were in Albany. And there was one lone person there who, if you can Google and find this footage online, I have to commend the professional that was there from the mayor's office. I think he's a deputy. I'm going to be sharing some of those images. This man, everything that he said, you know, apparently they arranged this inquest months ago. They gave a list of questions. The mayor's office went back, researched all the questions, and came prepared to answer all those questions, but not prepared to answer any questions on the spot. So, you know, when you're watching a gangster movie, and in the gangster movie, they plead the fifth for fear of incriminating themselves. He kept saying, you know, I would love to give you this information, but instead of giving you a number now, I'm going to circle back with that question to make sure I get you the right answer. And he said that so many times that the chair, who was very, very, I would say she was very quick, very smart, and very unapologetic about how she feels about the way the administration treated this inquest by not coming and not having any information. At one point she said, what does circle back mean? Circle back. That's all you keep saying. I don't know what that means. And I'm giggling sitting in the front row because I'm like, wow, these people are not playing. They would, if it were a cartoon, smoke would have been coming out of his collar, but he was very professional. He just kept saying the same thing. And at some point, you know, the chair and the other council members, I think even Council Member Lewis, commended him for being brave enough to come by himself, but that never should have been the thing. And I made a note to myself, I gotta be here when they come back, because now, which is interesting, I forget the number. So there is a $30 billion, I think that's the right number, initiative or fact that X amount of dollars have to be poured into the minority MWBE people, right? So this was about Black women not being able to get access to this funding. And actually, I wrote a statement. I read the resolution. You guys should Google it. It's resolution 281, I think, or 287. And the inquest allowed you to come in and speak to support it, or you could upload your comment. And maybe we'll come back to it and I'll read you what I wrote, because I brought it with me. But I left I've been in love with what Eric Adams' administration has done for Black and Brown communities that are minority certified. But I also left puzzled and kind of heartbroken because the reason why a lot of people are not minority certified, and they spoke about it, like they asked, how many documents does it take for minority certification? And the deputy person said, I'm going to have to circle back because, again, that would probably depend on each individual business. And not true. To apply for my minority women business enterprise, there is a mandatory 34 documents that have to be submitted. And one of the speaking points that the committee was saying, a lot of small businesses don't have documents or they don't know documents. And I'm talking about things like things outside of your articles of incorporation, right? There are questions about your stocks, your minute notes. There's a question about your net worth. So if you're applying for MWBE, you can't have a personal net worth of more than $15 million. But if you walk down the street and ask the average person, what is your net worth? Or what is the calculation you use to obtain your net worth? How many assets do you
I do
own?
remember these questions.
Yeah.
My point is, when I was sitting down with my small business associates to hash out what it is I need, they mentioned certification, but there was no notes taking. Like you just said, we should have taken notes, but
no. Right. So there are no meeting notes. But here's the small print, right? For the elements that are required that a small business doesn't have, you have to upload a statement to explain not having it or not having, right? That's and so
when the court system is like
right, and when you are in a city as diverse as us, and you go to this website, those documents, for as much as I can see, are not written in multiple languages, right? When I go to the portal for the state, everything is in English. And there are some grammatical errors. There are links in some of the instructions that are outdated. There are multiple help desks for lots of different things. The two help desks don't cross-pollinate. So if you call this one and you're talking to them and you ask them a question outside of their reach, nobody gives a damn. They're not able to answer anything else. But it has been a huge learning curve for myself. Sometimes you look up on a person who isn't a minimalist and they provide additional information. Then there are other things like, in order to get the certification, once you get it, that's not the end of what happens.
No.
You get the certification, you're in this database, but now you have to know how to manipulate these databases, or as I heard some gentlemen in a meeting recently, they referred to it as portals. It's a combination of both, right? You have to know how to go into these various login situations, look for your business, look for the available.
So it's not user friendly.
So for me, I've worked in tech. I've studied computers since I was a kid, right? For me, it's very easy. But just think about the demographic of our 5 boroughs when we went through the pandemic and people had to shift to working from home. Kids had to shift from learning from home. And you realize people don't have the technology. Nope. People who want to get minority certified, they might not have a computer in their home, right? You go into the average small business, mom and pop store, they're not very techy, right? So if you can't get to the portal to upload your documents, and that's why they have these CDFIs, you can walk into them. One of them, I'll give you all a freebie, small business, NYC Small Business Services. You can walk in there, ask them for help. Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce has a office that's at, I think it's 900 Bond Street. You can walk in there.
Elm or Bond?
Bond, B-O-N-D. I think it's 900 Bond, but you can go to Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce website. There, it's very thoroughly laid out. They have classes. There's also score.org. All of these places that are getting and receiving money, you can go there and ask these questions. Now I'm going to tell you they're all great, but they're not as good as My Hungry World. And that's my mic drop.
So people, you gotta hook up with Donnatella, My Hungry World.
Yes, yes. There's that voice. I feel like he needs to do audiobooks or something, right? I feel like we're on a dating website. Donnatella, see, Rickie James, take it away. What do you want to talk about next?
They're making fun of your voice.
I just love what I do.
No, I think it's a nice voice.
So, commanding voice.
So I have to go back on something that I said earlier this year. When I first joined Community Cuts, I said, hey, I would love to help people get minority certified. And I looked at, and I'm talking about the people who are connected to the platform. And I said, oh, I normally charge $700. I'm going to do things for $350. And then I said, oh, you know, it's the end of the year. I'm going to go back to, you know, my regular pricing. And I have been blessed that right now I am doing 9 different organizations, minority certification, including my own. So I am going to gift the small businesses that are connected here. You might not be present because I know there's one person who's connected here who's not here. I'm going to do everybody's minority certification application for free.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it's not really kind. It's you know, the problem in our community, we don't keep our dollar in our community, right? Mm-hmm. And so for several months, I don't know how many months I've been here, mm-hmm. right? There's a platform that we're using, mm-hmm. right? I would like to ensure and know nothing about the business, right? The business end of the space that we're in, but helping you get minority certification for your brand, minority certification for your brand, understanding that your brand has to be active to get the minority certification.
Yeah, there you
right?
go.
And my brand, and then the independent barbers and stylists that are here will ensure that next year, you know, there's a person, let's just say the hair business, right? I know a person who received $1 million grant. Grant is money you don't pay back. $1 million grant for providing prosthetic hair pieces for people who are suffering from hair loss, right? By the same token, you can have a barber who says, I would like to supply wellness and hair care for men in shelters, or troubled youth from the ages of 17 to 24. Those are all things, and yes, some of them are nonprofits, but there are ways for for-profit businesses to receive money in order to give out services. So we are in November, and next week is Thanksgiving. Then it's Christmas. The year is almost up.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to see my mom. I can pretend for those days that I'm at my mother's house that I'm not financially challenged and without housing, right? And then I'll come back and fight the great fight at the end of the year. But yes, so for those people who work here, who are renting chairs, you know, and for the person who owns the place, I am offering that certification for free, right? Because once you get your first big contract, I'm sure somebody's like, Donnatella, let me make sure you eat this month. Right. So
and that's awesome what you're doing. It's awesome. May God continue to bless you because you're blessing others as well.
And so are you. Do you guys watching, do you see that Duke has fully branded our microphones? And I hear soon we're gonna have some hoodies. And if Duke ever takes 5 seconds, you'll have a website where you can see some of the past things that he's done.
Nice.
And you know,
you need an editor. I do see that you need someone to edit all those films and put them all together in a categorical idea.
But you know, you could, or with you just need. Let's just say you need, but the world needs to see more of what Duke is doing.
He
you know?
created, yes.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
you
all
can,
back in the days, he interviewed people you can't even see now. They're so popular. So
wait. Did you all hear that Chiosei
Oh yes,
has
yeah.
filed a challenge to Hakeem Jeffries? I know that Hakeem Jeffries, and I should
Congressman Jeffries.
Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. Let me put some respect on his name because right now Chiosei is not, right? But he filed a challenge to Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. And I know he is a friend of Community Cuts.
Hakeem
Congressman
Jeffries.
Hakeem Jeffries,
Right.
I'm bringing it back in, right? Has spoken on this talk show. What do you think about that? And this is the same person who, I've met him. He's bright. He's energetic, right? He's locked in with the new mayor elect. They're like before he announced he was running for mayor or right after, they're always kind of together. His social media game, if you Google him, is really high. He's also the person who kind of threw Darlene Mills under the bus with his comments about, her activity within her district. What do you think about that? Two of you.
Rickie, did you want to?
no one should set a challenge to a congressman. That's a hit in the wrong direction for whoever is in his surroundings. So I think that's a negative.
And what for people who are listening, right? Because what does it mean when someone challenges? And because I want to make sure I have a understanding. Does that mean he's challenging his seat so he can take his seat?
Yes.
What?
And everybody in the political arena is telling him no. Stand back, stand down. Including people that's part of DSA is telling him as well. Well, the mayor, Zohran Mamdani, said no.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he did. And so people are saying, it's the wrong time.
Well, I don't know if Chiosei grew up in Brooklyn. I don't know if you have to be from Brooklyn to actually run for office or if you just have to live here. But, you challenge someone like Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. If he wasn't such a politically correct man that likes to talk like this, these hands that are active when he's talking might turn into some fisticuffs because that is just so blatantly disrespectful. I don't even think I've heard of a Republican doing that.
Well, I know Hakeem personally, and I know that we cannot afford to for him to go now, not now. I mean, we're in the trenches now, and we're fighting back for our communities. And he is the Democrat minority leader, and hopefully he will be the majority leader. And we can't afford for him to be challenged now, not now.
And what happens when a person, when I heard he challenged them, I was like, he challenged them. It's like a duel. Are they gonna meet at noon with guns and walk 10 spaces? What does that mean? What is the next step after a challenge?
Well, I mean, he's going to put out his words. He's going to put out his, his rhetoric and so forth. But he just became a council person. He just became this. So now you want to step up to the next level without even living this thing out that you just, got into, which is city council. And you're not, we don't want to go backwards now. I'm not saying I don't know him personally
or his policies,
but we need to, we're grooming this Hakeem Jeffries, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. He's groomed and he's continued to move forward, and Community Cuts supports him. And
MyHungryWorld supports Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. Anytime I have ran into him when he's with Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, I met them along with Council Member Chris Banks at Guyana Day. Very, very nice. I asked Congressman Hakeem Jeffries for a picture. It was equivalent to me of standing next to Barack Obama. You know, he is someone that I think people may be disappointed in how the Democrats are doing certain things, but at the end of the day, I think what he's done for the community far outweighs whatever it is, and I can't speak with, you know, conviction because I'm not 100% sure about what Chiosei is challenging him about. And I need to familiarize myself before we come back for the next show. But it was mind blowing to me when I heard it. And maybe, you know, and we just had public advocate Jamani Williams on the daytime talk show that I'm on, the Reset Talk Show on Wednesday. And I wish I had thought of that. And actually, I think we might have touched on it. We touched on so many things, but I would love to know what he thinks.
Because I have never seen a congressman, a senator, or any shy away from a conversation with someone else. They're not Hitler. They're not someone that's going to say, you must die, you must go away. But they're there. If it's something that's wrong, that you could call their office and they would come to your rescue in one way or another.
Yeah.
I mean, the entire political atmosphere and political people that's, you know, in DC are saying no. The Democrats say no. You can't, you know, we're not having this. And they know the jewel that they have, that precious jewel that they have in Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. So no one wants to, they're not biting. They're not going to take a bite of that. So we here from Brooklyn, we're supporting him. You know, so that's my take.
Okay. You know, I know we've been talking a lot. I don't know how much more time we have. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about deed theft.
Please.
And I specifically wanted to talk about a young lady that I met recently, Janina, and I'm probably going to say her name incorrectly, Janina Davis. She is one of the most beautiful people I've met in a long time. Heart of Gold. She's a former supermodel. There is a movie, a documentary, and I'm going to look at the name real quick. It's the name is similar to another big movie that was out. It's called Slumlord Millionaire. This is a documentary. It's going to air on PBS for the next month. I went to a conference on October 30th with the New York Commission of Human Rights. And as they, you know, taught us about how to identify discrimination, you know, how to report it, what their organization was about. They even had some soft skills kind of activities to further bring home and educate. We spent 90 minutes watching this documentary, and the documentary is based here in Brooklyn. I saw familiar faces like Council Member Rita Joseph, people who speak out on behalf of constituents who are having issues in landlord-tenant court, especially due to discrimination. And so there was a Spanish-speaking family. Their landlord was on camera saying outrageous derogatory things to them, not providing services, providing all kinds of undue stress. And it was horrible. And, you know, it was about this young girl who grew up, and I forgot over the amount of time that this transpired, but she literally grew up and went to college. She was there speaking, and that family won the lawsuit that the New York Commission of Human Rights filed on their behalf against this landlord, who ultimately had to admit to what she was doing. There were some set-asides made for these individuals in the building that they were in. But one of the things that was unique to me is that there was a topic about deed theft. And deed theft It's something that we've heard our Attorney General talk about very passionately. People, especially seniors within our communities, in the Black and Brown communities, or just homeowners who have had their homes stolen, how easy it is to gather someone's deed. There are people in Brooklyn who are losing their homes because of utility bills that were intentionally separated, and how there seems to be a conspiracy between real estate people, bankers, and whoever else to take away, to strip the generational wealth from out of our Black and Brown community. But as I watched this movie, this documentary, and in her case, you know, there were images of her runway model, being all over the country, having had the wherewithal and I want to say excellence and, you know, achievement to actually purchase a plot of land in Brooklyn, right? And 2 plots, and to have a building, right? That's like real diehard Brooklyners. That's like your ultimate dream, right? To own a brownstone or a 2-family, or to be able to own a home in New York City, because we know how expensive that is versus moving to Florida, well, moving to Atlanta, you know, somewhere in those regions where it's less expensive. But to own 2 lots and to put your trust into someone and have the understanding that, hey, I want to build a business. I want to build a protection for my property for my child. She had a child. And I want to put this into a trust and we'll use it with an LLC, only to find out later that these people finagled her out of her property. And that happens more than you think. Right. And so I won't spend much more time talking about it, but I kind of decided, you know, I have my own personal things that are going on that I'll be sharing more in the future. But when I met her and I looked to my left, and we did like the soft skills kind of exercise, and I looked at her, I said, this is the lady from the documentary. You know, I'm a Black woman, so I look at her, I can see her, I can see she's a little bit older, and I could see that in the discussions from the commission, I did not hear a resolution for her problem. I heard resolution for everyone else. I also noticed that she wasn't sitting on the board. There were all these brown Spanish-speaking people, and they were talking about the successes that they had. I never saw her. And I literally said to the people sitting around me who weren't people of color, that's the lady. She's sitting over there. And they're like, oh, no, she isn't. That's not her. And I'm like, of course she is. She's a Black woman. I can tell who she is. And so maybe next week, actually, I won't be here next week. But I think, because I want to make sure she's comfortable that she's here when I'm here, that we have her on and she tell you how she has been fighting for, I think it's double-digit years to get her property back. Can you imagine having your land stolen from you and then to walk past that land and see buildings built on it that you don't own?
Yeah.
And you hold the paper in front of you, and you just
and nobody.
As amazing as that may seem, it's not yours.
Yeah, and because someone close to her was involved in the conspiracy to deprive her of her land and getting it back when she has like all the proof, because who in the hell would sign away
their own land?
Yeah, would sign away their property. So it is, I've taken that as my 2026 objective to help give her more air, and hopefully because you know it eats at you. Yeah. And she must be a good person, a Christian person, because she hasn't tried to take anybody's life. You know,
back in the 70s, they used to bum rush you out of your property. The man would, the person who wants your property would come with a team and bum rush you and say, get out.
Yep.
You have to lock your door so in so many different ways.
So, family, and we're gonna say good night. And before we say good night, we're gonna, we gotta remind our audience to keep the fight going.
Mm-hmm.
Pray, and not only pray, but walk in your prayers.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's more than just standing up. It's walking in the God that's within you, because there's a fight out here today, and it's real, and we have to walk into that God that's within us, tap into the Most High God, because it is real. And so, with that being said, I'm going to say good night to our family out here.
And I'm sure Salon Leahing is like, can y'all get the hell up out of here? They have beautiful people to style. Later. And I'm hungry.
Well, family, it was another great show. I thank Donnatella and Rickie James. Salon Leahing hosted Community Cuts. Oh, family, Thanksgiving is next week, but the real Thanksgiving is within you. The God is within you. That's the Thanksgiving.